By the time the 6th squad car fishtailed up the dusty drive and braked beside the old barn, I already had the coffee brewing. Red and blue strobes sliced across the weather-beaten boards of the 100-year-old Mercer family farm. Flashing over the fading paint, my great-grandfather brushed on himself. Officers piled out like they were about to breach a criminal hideout, not a place where the most suspicious thing in a decade was forgetting to latch the chicken coop. Leading the charge was Amanda HOA, president of Cedar Ridge Estates, wearing a blazer. Wedge heels sinking into mud, and the expression of someone who had rehearsed this moment in the mirror. She waved dramatically toward me. "That's him," she declared, finger stabbing the air. "He refuses to vacate HOA property. We voted to seize the land for non-compliance. He's been warned." I didn't move, didn't blink. I just leaned in the farmhouse doorway, white t-shirt, jeans, work boots, one hand around my coffee mug, the other holding up my phone. On the screen, a timer ticked up from 0:01. The nearest officer squinted. "What's the timer for, sir?" I gave a slow, level smile. "That," I said, "is how long you've all been on camera for a federal civil rights violation complaint." I tapped the screen. "My lawyer gets a copy automatically." Amanda froze. "What?" Overhead, the faint hum of a drone swept past right on cue. The officer's radio crackled. "Unit 12 County Attorney's Office just called. Something about jurisdiction." I smiled wider. "Welcome to the Mercer farm," I said. "Clock's ticking. I'm the sort of man suburban HOA types don't know how to categorize. 36, living alone on the 80 acres my family has worked for a century. Mercer Farm, founded 1925. The farmhouse is older than every house in the neighboring subdivision combined. I grow Haley's pasture to a cattle guy, fix my own fences, and talk more to my dog and the radio than to people. I don't throw parties. I don't blast music. I don't have rusting vehicles in my yard. Just an old red tractor, a quiet life, and a stubborn streak forged by 3 generations of farmers who survived droughts, recessions, and a freeway proposal my grandfather killed by chaining himself to a cottonwood. The problem wasn't me. The problem was what sprouted around me. Cedar Ridge Estates spread like a slow infection, one cul-de-sac at a time. Vinyl palaces creeping closer to the Mercer fence line. Brought to you by Sycamore Horizon Development, LLC. With them came walking trails that conveniently needed to snake near my fields. People accidentally parking beside my barn for their backyard barbecues. And a tidal wave of next-door posts from folks scandalized that roosters crow at dawn. At the center of it all was Amanda Keene. Amanda, the HOA president, realtor, and self-appointed brand, ambassador of Cedar Ridge. She had a haircut more expensive than my monthly feed. Bill and an email signature packed with certifications. She introduced herself last year by strutting up my drive in heels, eyeing the barn silo and century-old maple, and announcing, "This could be stunning with the right vision." "I like it as it is," I replied. She smiled like she'd found mildew on marble. That set the tone. Within months, Cedar Ridge's glossy ads featured Mercer Farm as their pastoral backdrop. Listings boasted sweeping farm views and heritage ascent living. Nobody asked permission. I wouldn't have minded until the HOA decided that if they could see my land, they could control it. It began with petty nonsense. Amanda emailed me from the official Cedar Ridge Estates HOA account. "Hi, neighbor. Your property, while technically outside our boundaries, significantly affects the visual character of the community. We'd love to collaborate on some improvements. For example, painting your barn a more neutral tone, removing older equipment from sightlines of our backyards, limiting animal noises during early morning hours." Responded in 4 words. "No thanks." Not interested. She didn't take the hint. A month later, I got home from the feed store to find a Cedar Ridge community notice stapled to my fence about proposed landscape improvements affecting shared views. HOA volunteers were out measuring potential trail easements along my pasture fence line. 2 kids were climbing on my hay bales because their mom said, "It's just open land." I walked the volunteers off my property.com, but firm. Y'all can go ahead and turn around and step back to your side of the line, I said. Fence is the boundary. Has been since 1925. They retreated, muttering that Amanda said this would all be community space eventually. That word eventually lodged in my mind. Then came the letters. First, from the HOA, Cedar Ridge has voted to incorporate the adjacent open acreage into the Cedar Ridge Amenities Master Plan. Then from Sycamore Horizon Development, LLC. We represent entities interested in acquiring your land for integration into the Cedar Ridge community, including a clubhouse, pool, and expanded trail network. Then, from Amanda herself, stepping out of a Lexus at the end of my drive, holding a manila folder. It's really a win-win, she said, voice sugared. We can offer well above agricultural value. You can move somewhere more appropriate. Suburban buyers don't want to look at tractors forever, you know. I leaned on the fence. Not selling, I said. Her smile thinned. You'd be wise to consider it. Communities evolve. You don't want to be the one holding things back. Been holding this place up just fine, I said. Not selling. That's when the pressure shifted from irritating to hostile. Cedar Ridge's newsletter started running little blurbs about eyesore properties and uncooperative landowners. Residents began filing complaints with the county about agricultural smells and tractor. It's on a farm that existed before their entire subdivision and was fully zoned agricultural. Amanda started referring to Mercer Farm in meetings as the holdout parcel. Then I learned she'd gone to the county planning board with a glossy PowerPoint titled Cedar Ridge Expansion, converting underutilized land into community value. Half the slides were photos of my farm. No permission. No blurring. Amanda believed this was all inevitable. Suburbs creep in, farms fold, HOA wins. What she didn't understand was that Mercer Farm wasn't just a plot of dirt, and I was nowhere near as alone as I looked. The breaking point came as a zoning hearing. Amanda, acting as Cedar Ridge HOA president and community representative, filed a petition with the county to rezone and annex the Mercer property into the Cedar Ridge planned unit development. On paper, it looked like a done deal renderings of future clubhouses and pickleball courts, a community garden replacing my hayfield, and a carefully vague note about negotiations with the current occupant. You could tell she'd practiced saying occupant instead of owner. I found out not because Amanda informed me, but because the county was legally required to send me notice as the titled owner. I read the packet at my kitchen table, jaw tightening with every page. They were treating my century-old family farm as a foregone conclusion, a place they were already dividing up. I went to the hearing. The Cedar Ridge group wasn't expecting me. Imagine it. Small county boardroom, buzzing fluorescent lights, worn carpet. Amanda up front with a laptop, HOA board members and matching polos behind her. And here, she said, clicking to the next slide, you can see how the Cedar Ridge expansion will convert this underutilized, frankly blighted agricultural tract into vibrant community space. The screen displayed a photo of my barn. I raised my hand. The board chair squinted. Yes, sir. In the hat, I stood. Yeah. Hi. Quick question. What's the legal term for trying to annex someone's land without talking to them first? The room shifted. Amanda hesitated. I wasn't aware that I mean, Mr. Mercer. We've been attempting to engage you on this, Liz, I said calmly. For the record, forward and placed a neat stack of documents on the table before the board. Copy of my deed. Mercer Farm, 1925, with every transfer properly updated. Agricultural zoning certificate. A conservation easement filed by my grandfather 3 decades back, and a letter from the State Department of Agriculture designating Mercer Farm as a protected Century Farm heritage site. Amanda hadn't bothered to research that last part. The conservation easement was ironclad. This land was to remain agricultural in perpetuity, at a suggestion. A legally binding restriction upheld every time my family renewed the designation. And one more thing, I added, sliding over another sheet. A letter from the state AG's office acknowledging my complaint about Cedar Ridge using my property and marketing material and misrepresenting its future. Availability. I was currently under review. The board chair looked like a man who wished he could evaporate. To clarify, he said carefully, you're not selling. Your property is under a state-recognized conservation easement. Correct, I replied. Amanda's voice pitched up. This is completely inappropriate. The HOA has rights. Our covenants, the county planner, silent until now, finally spoke. Cedar Ridge has no jurisdiction over Mercer Farm. It was never platted into your subdivision. This petition is not viable. Translation: dead in the water. It should have ended there. But ego is a dangerous accelerant. After that very public humiliation, Amanda didn't retreat, she escalated. She began telling residents, and more critically, local police, that I was unstable, potentially armed, and illegally blocking community access. She claimed the HOA held easements across my land, and I was refusing lawful entry. None of it was true, but it was just believable enough to interest patrol officers. That's how. On a bright Wednesday morning, I stepped outside with my coffee to see 6 cruisers rolling up my driveway behind Amanda's Lexus. She'd called them to assist. With HOA enforcement, she had officially turned this into a civil rights problem, and I had been preparing for exactly that. People assume quiet farm guys don't understand tech or legal strategy. Cuden. The weeks after the zoning hearing, I installed 3 discrete security cameras, gate, barn, porch, set them to cloud load whenever motion was detected or when I spoke a certain code phrase, consulted a civil rights attorney recommended by the AG's office, subscribed to a legal service that auto-generated complaints whenever I flagged an encounter. And I had a very pointed conversation with both the county sheriff and the county attorney if the HOA calls about me. Confirm with the county attorney first. This is private agricultural land. No easements. No right-of-way. No authority. Both agreed. I got that in writing. So when Amanda strutted up my porch with 6 cop cars behind her, waving a folder and rattling about seizure and noncompliance, I didn't flinch. I opened my timer app and hit start. It began ticking upward. 001, 002, 003. I wanted a clean record of how long they remained after being told they had no jurisdiction, Mr. Mercer. One officer began stiffly. We've been asked to help Cedar Ridge enforce a removal before you say another word, I said evenly. Raising my phone, please look at that post on my gate. They turned. Mounted on the gate post, laminated and unmistakably official, was a letter from the county attorney. Law enforcement is advised that Mercer Farm is private agricultural property under a conservation easement. No entity, including nearby homeowner associations, holds any recorded easement, right-of-way, or enforcement authority. All access requires owner permission. The officer read it twice. Behind him, a cruiser radio crackled. All units at Mercer Farm, dispatch. County Attorney Lawson just called confirmed jurisdiction before taking any action. Repeat, confirmed jurisdiction. Amanda's smile flickered. Officer, she rushed out, we have an HOA resolution. We voted to seize this land for community use due to chronic non-compliance. He's been trespassing on what is effectively community property trespassing. I repeated, on my great-grandfather's farm. One younger officer shifted. The lead officer sighed. Ma'am, HOA covenants don't give you seizure rights. That's not a thing. But our bylaws, your bylaws don't override property deeds or state law. My timer ticked past 3:20. I spoke clearly for the cameras. I am the sole legal owner of Mercer Farm. This is private property. Unless you have a warrant or an emergency, no one enters. Do you have a warrant? Silence. The drone above buzzed softly. Sir, we're just trying to resolve then. Resolve it, I said, by turning around. Radios crackled again. Unit 12. Lawson here. You're on private agricultural land. Back off. We'll handle the HOA separately. There, it was the shift. Shoulders dropped. The lead officer nodded. Copy that. He turned to Amanda. Ma'am, we're not seizing anything. This is a civil matter, and frankly, it's not one in your favor. Amanda's face flushed. You can't just leave. He's obstructing community plans, undermining the HO. Athos sets a dangerous precedent, the dangerous precedent. The officer cut in. Would be us helping you illegally remove a man from his own property? I tapped the timer. 3:17, thank you, officer. This footage and your acknowledgement goes straight to my attorney. 2 cops glanced at the drone. Is that live? Yep, I said. Streaming to the cloud and to a nice little folder at the AG's office labeled Cedar Ridge HOA Overreach. Amanda's complexion went ashy. She had never accounted for the fact that while she obsessed over bylaws, I had escalated to people who write state statutes. The fallout hit. Cedar Ridge like a thunderstorm. First came the letter from the state AG's Civil Rights Division. Residents got a copy. So did the HOA board. We are investigating allegations that Cedar Ridge Estates HOA attempted to interfere with a neighboring landowner's property rights by misrepresenting its authority to law enforcement and county officials. Key phrases: abuse of perceived authority, pattern of harassment, potential civil rights violations. Then came the county's move. The county attorney called a public meeting to address misuse of emergency services for civil disputes. I didn't speak. I didn't have to. They played the video. 6 cruisers entering Mercer Farm. Amanda declaring it HOA property. Officers reading the posted letter. Radios crackling. And the line that echoed through the room, HOA, covenants don't give you seizure rights. That's not a thing. Clip of Amanda saying we voted to seize this land was replayed 3 times. Phones out everywhere. Whispers like wind through corn, someone muttered. She told us the county supported expansion. Oops. The county commission, thoroughly done with Cedar Ridge's nonsense, voted to formally reprimand the HOA. Bar them from proposing annexations involving land they didn't own. And forward everything to the Ag and State. HOA Regulatory Board. The hammer fell in stages. The Ag entered a consent agreement with Cedar Ridge. Hefty fine. Mandatory board training. Independent legal oversight for future enforcement actions. My attorney filed a civil suit for harassment, defamation, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The sheriff's office flagged HOA calls. About me as civil only and referred them directly to the county attorney, but the real blow came from the HOA's insurance carrier when they saw the footage of Amanda. Summoning 6 cruisers to seize land the HOA had zero claim to, they panicked. Premiums soared. Coverage for board misconduct narrowed. And the insurer demanded specific board members be removed if the HOA wanted to keep its policy. Top of the list. Amanda Keene. She tried to tough it out, framing herself as the victim of a smear campaign, but it failed instantly. Especially after the county posted a neat FAQ on its website titled, What HOAs Cannot Do, No Matter What Your Bylaws Say. Question number 1. Can an HOA annex land it doesn't own? Answer, a very firm no, with a link to the Mercer case. Amanda's downfall wasn't handcuffs dramatic. It was bureaucratic, grinding, inevitable. Removed as HOA president in a special election. Barred from serving under the AG agreement. Quietly dropped by her real estate brokerage. Her name became a cautionary tale in realtor trainings. At the emergency HOA meeting, announcing the results, Amanda stood at the back, pale as chalk. The vote wasn't close, 68-12 for removal. She opened her mouth to defend herself. But the interim president, an exhausted accountant named Paul, simply said, The motion passes. Ms. Keene, you're removed from the board, effective immediately. Amanda's hands trembled around her leather folder. But I was protecting property values, she whispered. I was doing what was best for the community. Paul looked at her with weary pity. You tried to steal a man's farm, Amanda, on camera. The insurance company is threatening to drop us. We're under state oversight, and we just paid a $25,000 fine because of your actions. Amanda's face collapsed. She turned and walked out, heels clicking sharply against the linoleum as 200 residents watched in absolute silence.